New England still could. If Miami loses, however, Buffalo has a better chance than either the Dolphins or the Patriots of starting the playoffs at home. It'll take a long time to explain it. You're just going to have to trust us on this. Let's go back now to Miami and join Al Michaels. Of course, Al, the fans in Tennessee still happy because Miami on the short end of the 13-7 score tonight.
Right. The Miami Dolphins, if they were to lose the 2 games remaining on their schedule and Tennessee defeats Minnesota on Saturday in Nashville, then the Oilers would get that last playoff spot. And right now, in a game that means nothing to Denver and everything to Miami, it is the Denver Broncos on top by 6. It was John Elway capping a 50-yard drive, losing the ball on a fumble, but Rod Smith was there to recover it to make it 10-0. But then the Dolphins were able to come back toward the end of the half after a 29-yard completion to Nate Jaquette on 3rd down. It was Marino going back to throw and finding Lamar Thomas beating Tito Paul in the end zone to make the score at that time 10-7. Jason Elam was able to add a field goal to make it 13-7. And so what about the Broncos now in the second half, Dan?
I know it doesn't mean anything, but how they play means everything to Mike Shanahan. And right now the Broncos, even though they have the 6-point lead, just aren't playing very well. John Elway still below 50% in his passing. Terrell Davis is not running the ball very well. I'm sure they're getting an earful from Mike Shanahan at halftime.
No, forget the running game for the Miami Dolphins. Only 12 yards on 11 rushes. Put it in the hands of Dan Marino. Let him do what he does best. Take him down, and maybe they'll have a shot at winning this football game.
So an important matchup, and it's a much anticipated game, and it's a good one to this point with the Denver Broncos leading at the half 13-7. Yes, it's the holiday season in Miami as we start the second half at Pro Player Stadium. Al Michaels with Dan Deerdorf, Boomer Esiason, and Leslie Visser, and they turned the lights down at the half because they were honoring Dwight Stevenson, the former Dolphin center who was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame this summer, and it's taken a little while for, there goes Dwight, after a very nice ceremony at the half, and it's taken a while for the what is it, the foot candles to get back up?
Yeah, it's real bright down by the goal line and in the end zones, and yet pretty dim right there at the 30 where the ball is.
It's going to be pretty dim if the Dolphins can't come from behind in the second half here, as the second half kickoff is taken by Derek Lavelle on a bouncing kick by Mate and brought back to the 41. Let's check in with Leslie Visser.
Al, Jimmy Johnson said at halftime that this is strange to save a 38-year-old, but they have got to limit Elway's scrambling. He also said with Avery out and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar dinged, he said our offense is severely limited, and they do not want Dan Marino to throw the ball 57 times as he did last week. Al?
They're going to have to because they can't run it.
Sometimes necessity forces you to do things that you don't want to do.
From the 40-yard line as Elway begins with a bomb to start the second half. It hits Rod Smith, who had beaten Sam Madison. And we had talked about Jimmy Johnson telling us last night that Madison hadn't beaten all season. Well, he's just beaten there, 35 yards.
Jimmy's looking for a little help from the officials, saying that the ball was not held by Rod Smith, that he was juggling it on the sideline.
It's an absolutely perfect throw by John Elway. Dropping it right over Madison's shoulder, right into the hands of Smith. And let's take a look at it. He pretty much demonstrated possession.
Sure.
Now Davis gets tackled there by Robert Jones for Terrell Davis. A very un-Davis-like evening to this point. 14 carries, 27 yards. Less than 2 yards a carry for a man who comes into the game averaging a sparkling 5.2. Broncos 30 straight wins when leading at the half, as is the case tonight. Longest current streak in the league.
You know, you have to remember this is the 3rd ranked defense in the NFL coming into this weekend. The Miami Dolphins are, and they had trouble against San Diego, which is one of the better defenses as well. So this is not a slouch defense that they're playing against.
2nd and 9, and Sharp makes the catch at the 20-yard line, taken down there about 5 yards shy of the first down. George Hill's defense trying to hold Denver right here as we look at the numbers of the first 30 minutes of competition. Denver on top by 6.
And by Denver standards, 139 yards at halftime, a pretty anemic production. A good half for the Miami Dolphins on the other hand with 180 total yards, but the 1 turnover. You know, Boomer, you talked about this defense of Miami's being 3rd coming into this weekend. That's in yardage. They're number 1 in the number that counts.
Points allowed. That's exactly right.
Lorenzo Bromell moving.
He's been a great story for the Miami Dolphins. A rookie, a fourth-round draft choice who already has 7 sacks. Number 2 in the NFL for all rookie defensive linemen. Only Vonnie Holliday in Green Bay has 1 more at 8.
Start offense and the snapper. 5-yard penalty remains. 3rd down.
On the snapper.
You know, it's kind of interesting. Centers try to get away with a little muscle twinge in their arm, and defensive linemen are not really watching the football. They're looking for movement either by the quarterback's legs or by the offensive lineman in front of them.
Well, we're down here in South Florida where seafood is really big. The center becomes snapper down here.
Yes, he does.
And what he's saying is that Nalen made a quick move.
When he dropped his butt like that, he was saying he was simulating a snap.
Tom Nalen, 3rd down and 11. Elway for the end zone, and Shannon Sharp does everything he can to try to draw a flag with Buckley. Buckley with great coverage, and Sharp doing a wonderful acting job to make it look like interference.
And guys, that's the matchup that you want. You don't want Shannon Sharp showing up against Zach Thomas running down the field, but you could see because of the alignment that they put Buckley right on Sharp, and Buckley can stay with him. He's not going to outmuscle him, but he can definitely stay with him.
Now Elam for a 43-yard attempt. He's made them from 52 and from 44. Tom Ruin to hold it. And he missed it.
He hooked it.
He did.
Big time.
And that means the ball will come back to the 34-yard line. 12:42 remaining in the 3rd period. Denver up by 6. Wayne Huizenga, the owner of the Miami Dolphins and the man who brought Jimmy Johnson into the fold. Jimmy now completing his 3rd year at the helm, and watching his team with the ball at the 33-yard line. 1st down and 10 is Dan Marino down by 6. Has the ball for the first time in the 2nd half. Buying time. Dump off. Caught by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And he's up to the 38-yard line, and he's tackled there by Atwater.
These are the types of things I think that they have to do because they're not able to run the football. They'll try a few more times just to try to keep the Denver Bronco defense honest, but play action, look down the field. If you can't find anybody, you know, Dan has the whereabouts to get the ball off to his late releasing backs or his tight ends, and this is the type of thing they're going to have to do offensively because they cannot move the ball running it.
2nd and 5. Bill Romanowski aligning himself at his linebacker spot. McDuffie in motion. Marino throws, and it's caught by O.J. McDuffie up at the 45-yard line. Pocket is there for the tackle. And gents, of all the interesting things with this Marino-Elway matchup, first time in 13 years, we forget going all the way back, they were great baseball players. And in 1979, as we watch the completion here, the Kansas City Royals drafted Dan Marino in the 4th round and John Elway in the 18th round. So Marino and Elway could have been teammates with George Brett.
That would have made Whitey Herzog a happy man.
And neither chose to sign, though Elway was subsequently drafted by the Yankees and did play 1 season of minor league ball for the Yanks. Abdul-Jabbar tackled at the line of scrimmage.
A lot of people drafted John Elway and didn't get his services. You stop and think that this guy could have played his football career in Baltimore. The Colts then were by the Bay, and John made it known no way was that going to happen, and Denver, for a whole bunch of players and whatnot, ended up with the rights to John Elway, and the rest, as they say, we all know what happened.
2nd and 11, 10:40 to go in the 3rd.
Chris Hinton, one of the guys that ended up going to Baltimore for Elway.
Good player. Marino throws, caught by Thomas, and Thomas is able to get free for the touchdown, his 2nd.
Oh boy, did George Coghill make a mistake. He went for the interception as opposed to playing the man and the football. And again, that was that seam throw against that cover 2, and he threw it to the sideline. You saw Brock Marion just absolutely lay out Ed McCaffrey of the Broncos, and this time Coghill goes for the football as opposed to for the man. He's still got enough gun in his arm, I can tell you that. And, a dangerous play by a safety. Thomas just does it easily, the rest on his own.
So Miami with the lead. Mate's kick gives them the lead. And in Thomas's 6-year career, this is the first time he has scored 2 touchdowns in a game, and he couldn't have picked a better time. 14-13. This crowd really into it now as their Dolphins are up by 1. Mate's kick fielded by Vaughn Hebron at the 1, and he's tackled at the 21-yard line by Nate Jaquette. Now Elway coming out as we take a look at the quarterback comparison. The first meeting of these guys since '85.
You think Dan Marino's trying to make a statement here tonight? You know, you will talk to both of them and they'll say we're not playing against each other, but every quarterback goes out on the field wanting to outplay his counterpart, and in a game of this magnitude with these types of players, they both are so competitive that they're the ones that not only want the win, but they want the numbers on their side.
And even more basic, Miami wants to get into the playoffs.
A win tonight, they clinch a playoff spot as Elway gets flushed out, throws underneath, and they bust up the play as Davis makes the catch, but right there to bring him down was Darrell Gardner.
You know, and a real indication of that, guys, is that we didn't see the rushing statistics for John Elway, but when he's starting to make plays with his legs, it goes to show you just how important this game means to him. Well, he wants this one very badly. There's no question about that.
Tonight he's rushed 4 times for 23 yards. He almost has as many yards as Davis has in 14 carries.
Well, he's like Steve Young in that respect. He really can't play any other way. It's just not in his nature.
2nd and 13. Draw. Davis, and that's Derek Lavelle, and he gets taken down immediately as the play is made by Robert Jones.
Well, keep in mind now, we talked about it earlier. This is a defensive football team that really feels that they were slighted in the Pro Bowl balloting. Only defensive tackle Tim Bowens is going to Hawaii, and they really came in on this national stage wanting to prove something tonight. And look at that stick by Jones. Textbook.
You know, I cannot even begin to tell you how nasty it is back there for the quarterback, with how loud it is here, how quick this defense is playing.
3rd and 13, they blitz. Denver picks it up. That gives Elway the time to throw, but good coverage in the secondary. Rod Smith has it broken up by Patrick Surtain.
And that's the rookie that Jimmy Johnson says is going to be great. Their 2nd-round draft choice this year, and he came up big that time. Look how tight he is all over Rod Smith.
You can see both guys covered, and Surtain actually getting in there and trying to get some hands on him. And Elway tries to underthrow the ball. A smart play, but Surtain was right there for the answer.
That time it's Smith that can't get separation.
Tom ruined the punt. Terrell Buckley back to accept it.
Nice kick.
Really good kick. 52 yards. Buckley from the 30. Taken down at the 36-yard line. The tackle made there by John Mobley. 8:33 left in the 3rd. Miami up by 1. Well, the Denver Broncos now defensively, as their team is down by a point after the last Miami drive resulted in the Lamar Thomas touchdown. Neil Smith again is not playing tonight, inactive on the shelf. Hope to have him back next week, says Mike Shanahan. In the meantime, John Avery, who went in for x-rays on his ankle, is fine. In fact, he's back in the game as the ace back in this set. And on 1st down, a quick throw over the middle to the tight end. That is Troy Drayton up to the 43-yard line for a gain of 7. That'll make it 2nd down and 3.
The old adage about blitzing Dan Marino, and sometimes the price you pay because of how quickly he makes a decision and how even quicker than that he delivers the football. Boomer, all these years we've been watching it, it's still a beautiful thing to see.
It really is. And one of the things that Greg Robinson, the defensive coordinator for the Broncos, has to figure out is you know, when to blitz him, when not to blitz him, and when to put pressure on these receivers. They've kind of let the receivers get off the line of scrimmage a little bit too easily tonight.
On 2nd and 2, back to the ground. Avery cuts it back. Great move. And Avery picks up a big first down to the Denver 40-yard line. What a move he put on Tito Paul.
Tito getting a lot more airtime than I'm sure that he wants.
Yes.
In the last 8 days.
You know, Tito is a wonderful athlete. I've actually played with him in Cincinnati and Arizona, and tonight he's had an opportunity to make 2 plays that he wasn't able to make, and right here's one of them.
That's what we call a whiff.
And you talked about the quickness, however, of Avery and what he can do when he has the football. And this is just a cutback. He starts one way and then cuts all the way against the grain. A good way to play against an over-pursuing defense like the Denver Broncos.
From the 40-yard line. Marino over the middle, guns that one to his tight end, Drayton. So 2 passes to Drayton on this drive. First down, tackled by Coghill at the 20.
I've been in games where Dan Marino has gotten hot, and you want to do anything you can to get him out of his rhythm. And right now, you're seeing just how masterful he can be when he's given the opportunity to throw footballs at the right time on first down and on second down. And he is just picking the Denver defense apart right now. He doesn't have to throw. He's throwing when he wants to right now.
First down.
Good point.
At the 19 with 6:40 to go in the 3rd. To the ground again to Avery. And Avery gets stopped after a gain of 1, maybe 2 by Steve Atwater. Marino tonight, a good night statistically. His rating computes to 128. And the interesting thing about Dan, all season long and going back to the middle of last year, he has not had a single game where his pass rating has been over 100.
I thought, what, like 19 games,
exactly.
I believe?
But you know what? Dan Marino is a primetime player, guys. We all know that. And tonight, this game has been billed a match between he and John Elway, and both are going toe-to-toe. And right now, you would say that Dan Marino is on his game.
2nd and 8, and Marino throws. Adjusting is Thomas, a touchdown. That's the hat trick for him.
And here goes the 3rd ball up into the stands. What a night for Lamar Thomas. Played collegiately here for the Hurricanes. Whoa. This guy had 2 touchdowns coming into the game tonight.
None since week 3.
Look at this adjustment to the ball, and then the grab over Darian Gordon. Fabulous.
What a great catch. And how many times have we seen that this year? The underthrown go pattern, and the DBs are unable to adjust to make a play.
Mate for the point after. 2 quick Miami strikes here in the 3rd quarter. 5:53 left in the 3rd. It's Miami 21, Denver 13. Dan Marino and Lamar Thomas have now combined for 3 touchdown passes in a span of 10 minutes, 1 second. Dan has completed his last 9 straight. And like 2 heavyweights going at it, Elway loosening it up, ready to come back in with the Broncos down by 8. Mate's kick fielded and dropped and picked back up at the 1-yard line by Vaughn Hebron. And Hebron brings it to the 19-yard line, almost losing the ball in the process. First down, Denver at the 19. The 3 touchdowns to Thomas. He had not scored since week 3 against Pittsburgh. That one as he beats Tito Paul. Then getting by Crockett here. Coghill can't make the tackle. That gave Miami the lead. And then a moment ago, adjusting, reaching, Gordon covering on the play. Touchdown Miami.
On that
4 receptions on the entire evening, 3 of them for scores.
Right, and on that second play, Crockett's got to get a hand on him and not let him get off the line that easily.
From the 19 now, it's Elway's chance. And he hits McCaffrey, and McCaffrey gets rolled down at the 28-yard line. Tackle made there by Sam Madison.
You know, and all the thing, you know, for all that Miami has accomplished now in the last 10 or so minutes, you know, they're only up by 8 points, and this is exactly, if I'm Mike Shannon, this is exactly the situation I want my team in right now on the road. You know, they really have nothing to play for. They need to be tested. And this is exactly where you want your football team to be at the end of the year, to show me something right now.
Second and a long one from the 28-yard line. Davis. And Davis thrusting forward, comes close to picking up the first down. Jason Taylor is there with under 5 minutes to play in the third.
Dan, that might have been his best run of the night right there, because he would have gotten stopped, and it looks like he lunged forward enough for a first down. Little runs like that, great running backs are able to accomplish the little things, and breaking tackles, falling forward to gain a half a yard or 2 yards for a first down. This is why he's one of the best in the league right now.
And it really, again, though, you're right, Boomer. It was a fine effort by Terrell Davis. But again, you just have to continue to praise this defensive unit of the Miami Dolphins. Every yard for the Broncos tonight is something they have had to scratch for. Everything's been contested.
And we'll see some more balls thrown downfield. I guarantee it. With the way Madison and Buckley are playing, coming out in the second half, Elway got a chance to throw it down to Rod Smith. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a few more of those plays right here along this part of the game.
And it's what Buckley and Madison have seen all year. They're in this press coverage against every team they play every down. It's all they do.
Oh, I talked to Buckley before the game. He goes, hey, man, I'm matched up. I'm ready to go. Come on, throw the ball at me.
First down at the 29-yard line. And on an end around, the Dolphins sniff that one out, and the speed of Jason Taylor takes care of Rod Smith. Taylor having a great night, even though he won't get credit for a couple of things that he did earlier, creating fumbles.
He knocked the ball loose from John Elway a couple times in the first half, and this is just, again, an illustration of Jason Taylor and his remarkable athleticism and speed. Look at that burst as he gets inside Carswell.
He looks like a power forward.
Oh, what acceleration.
I was down next to him on the field. He looked like a power forward.
Oh, I'll guarantee you Karl Malone's not that fast.
That's a 10-yard loss. It's second down and 20. Elway under pressure.
Here he goes.
And at the age of 38, still nimble enough to get up to the 35-yard line, breaking a tackle earlier by Shane Burton earlier in the play and picking up 16, setting up 3rd and 4.
Now keep in mind, John Elway has had hamstring problems earlier this year, and I'm sure every time Mike Shanahan sees John Elway digging out of the backfield like this at 38 years old, he has to be a little concerned.
He has to be, but it's still about being battle tested, watching your quarterback, your leader, your football team do things like this in a meaningless game means something not only to him, but the rest of those players on the football field.
3rd down and 4. And that's tipped and incomplete. And the Miami defense does its job. So the offense has taken the lead. They've scored twice in 2 possessions. The defense will get the ball back now for the offense. It's 4th and 4.
Boy, it's pressure and emotion, and you can feel it in this building right now. The Dolphins feed off of that here, and that's something that Jimmy Johnson wanted to instill in this building, was a distinct home field advantage.
Tom Ruin to punt. Terrell Buckley back to receive it. Low liner. 45-yard boot. Buckley from the 20. 14-yard run back out at the 34 with 3:07 to go in the third. The Dolphins trying to cement a spot in postseason play, leading by 8. The Rose Bowl from Pasadena right here on ABC. What a night for Lamar Thomas, who at the moment is on the bench as Miami has a 1st and 10 from the 33-yard line. And Dan Marino going to the air. He's completed 10 straight. That's McDuffie making the catch. A gain of 8. Let's go to Leslie.
Al, the Lamar Thomas's family is all here to support him. He's enjoying tremendous support. He is joined by his uncle, Mac Carter, his aunt, Patricia Carter, and his grandmother, Eris Thomas, who raised him in Ocala. He came over and he told them all, this is an early Christmas present for you, the 3 footballs. They said the best thing is that all the touchdowns are in this end zone and they haven't had to run to the other side. Al?
Well, they're going to get 50-yard line seats next week if he keeps playing like this.
No kidding.
Oh, boy, what a night for Lamar Thomas.
Luxury suite, 2nd and 1. Avery, and they're able to spread them out, and John Mobley is in there to make the tackle behind the line of scrimmage, and they've just turned a 2nd and 1 into a 3rd and 4.
Oh, just keep throwing the ball. Forget this. You can't run it. It's not happening.
You can't throw it every down.
Oh, why not?
Well, spoken like a true quarterback.
Hey, well, this guy is on fire tonight. This is not like last week where they were struggling offensively and they had opportunities to win. But
Are you seriously saying you wouldn't run the ball again the rest of the game?
forget it. Forget it.
If you're listening with the SAP button, he's en fuego, right? 3rd down and 4 from the 39-yard line.
Are you talking about Boomer or Marino?
Both. This is Marino throwing, and that is intercepted by Atwater. It was a carom, and Atwater winds up with it, and Denver has the ball. Ray Crockett and O.J. McDuffie battling for it, and the ball caromed into the arms of Steve Atwater.
And Steve Atwater, who's going to the Pro Bowl this year for the 8th time. Incredibly, that's his first interception of 1998.
So you got to run the ball. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, I knew that's what you'd be saying.
No, but really right here, this is a nice setup by Crockett. He gets inside and gets there right as the ball arrives, and then Atwater is right at the spot where the ball comes down.
That was really well done by Atwater.
Yes, it was.
By Crockett, rather.
Now Denver on 1st down. Draw play, Davis, and still nothing happening right there. And Terrell Davis tonight, that's 16 carries for 29 yards, less than 2 yards per lift. Elway tonight has 5 carries for 39 yards. So who would have thunk this? Second down and 9 from the 39-yard line. 4-man rush. Enough heat put on Elway that he throws a wobbly duck that is incomplete, intended for Davis. Derek Rogers back there covering, and Jason Taylor coming out holding his arm.
You know, if John Elway could get just a little bit more time, he's got McCaffrey wide open over the middle, about 15 yards deep. But he's kind of the pocket is kind of collapsing. They're coming around the corner, and they're doing a good job of keeping him in the pocket right now. You know, they've been burned, and I'm sure they've been told on the sideline, stay in your rush lanes. Stay in your rush lanes. Do not let John Elway beat us with his legs.
Taylor out. There's Bromell with his 7 sacks in there on 3rd down and 9. Elway, and they have him around the shirt, and that's a backward pass, so it's a live football, and it's picked up by Miami.
They're ruling it dead.
They're going to rule that dead. Jerry Wilson picks it up. If they're ruling it dead, I don't think there's a chance in 10,000 that that wasn't a backward pass.
Yeah, Phil Luckett waved it off.
Zach Thomas created it. He was the guy who got Elway's arm.
This has got to be a backward pass.
That's what Jimmy's arguing.
Jimmy's going to be apoplectic because this is another call that's going to go against him.
What an amazing set of circumstances for these officials, boy, I'll tell you. And you can hear the fans see it on the big board up top, and they're reacting to it. And take a look. Zach Thomas pulls John around.
He's at the 46.5-yard line, and the ball lands on the 48.
That is a fumble, and it is a lousy call.
Well, I mean, I think we're pretty fair to the officials, and we've tried to be on this show through the years, but I mean, this crew has just had a miserable month. Miserable. Ruins kick. Can Denver down it? And they do at the 1-yard line. So instead of Miami having the ball at about the Denver 40, they have it at the 1. And Jimmy, I don't blame you.
An outstanding stand by Miami defensively, notwithstanding that it should have been their ball. The referee does his job correctly, the first part of it, in determining that it is a pass, not a fumble, but that's only half of the job. It has to be a forward pass. That was certainly a backwards pass and a live football.
You know, the interesting thing is did they pick the ball up and how far did they run it down?
It doesn't matter because he's blowing the whistle.
Yeah, I know that, but I'm just saying it should have probably been. I can't see how far.
He got it to about the 40, I thought.
Did he actually get tackled?
Yes. It was Jerry Wilson. And he did get tackled.
You know, the thing is that the officials have a tough enough job as it is, but when calls like that go awry, you're talking about teams that are going for playoffs, coaches that have jobs, players that are affected by.
Well, in the meantime, they have to get out of the end zone here, and they do here as John Avery takes it up to the 1.5. Monday Night Football being brought to you by Cadillac and your Cadillac dealers. Southwest Airlines, proud sponsor of the NFL and official airline of the Super Bowl. And by 20th Century Fox's The Thin Red Line, the most anticipated movie of the year.
And by the way, Al, if you're keeping score at home, another instance where replay would not have corrected that.
Absolutely. Replay is not the panacea, but it certainly would help. Not tonight, though. End of 3. Miami 21, Denver 13. Monday Night Football resumes after this from our ABC stations. John Elway and he and the Broncos have been the beneficiaries of 3 atrocious calls by the officials tonight. This last one precipitating that Jimmy Johnson reaction.
Boy, and he has every right to be angry. I mean, his team is fighting for a playoff spot, and to have those calls go against you, it's got to be unbelievable how frustrating that is.
2nd and 9, and this is Ed Perry taking it out to the 8-yard line. And during our commercial break, Phil Luckett went over there to explain.
The ball went backwards. It's a fumble. That's what he's saying. Oh, now I'm not going to tell you what he said there.
I could lip read the adjective.
Yeah. You know, and it's right. And as I was saying, there's so much stress and pressure put on coaches and players week in and week out to be basically have 3 calls go against you. Well, that's just real.
3rd and 3, and that is incomplete as it is Troy Drayton who tries to haul it in at the 15, and now Miami is forced to punt. Again, and we mentioned it a couple of times earlier, but if you weren't with us, Jimmy Johnson's mother passed away last night in Port Arthur, Texas. So for Jimmy, it's just an emotionally racking night along the sideline to begin with.
I don't know how he can do it, to be honest with you. I mean, it's not an easy thing to coach in the NFL, but to have that hanging on your heart too, boy.
And Jimmy very close with his parents as George Coghill accepts this kick off the foot of Wilmsmeyer and brings it back to the 41-yard line. So very good position now for the Broncos, who trail by 8 a minute into the 4th.
With 5 consecutive wins, we talked to Norv Turner one-on-one at Manly Shopping. Find out how local men are dealing with the Christmas rush after the game.
Well, gents, you know, when we saw the schedule come out this year, we knew this would be a big night to begin with. Marino against Elway. Then we had the specter of the undefeated season, which went away. But it's Marino and Elway again, and it's quite a show.
And it's also a Miami Dolphins team that is playing for a spot in the playoffs, and they're playing with that kind of intensity tonight.
1st and 10, Elway going deep, and it is not in bounds. Rod Smith with the coverage by Sam Madison, and the side judge is right down there to say he wasn't in, and that was Laird Hayes, the side judge, making that call.
And it looks from here he made the right call. So, you know, you got to give him credit when they make the calls right. And you see right here, Smith steps out right there. But we're going to see some more of that tonight as the night goes on, just because of that particular type of coverage and how aggressive they are. We keep talking about it. The opportunities for plays are there.
2nd and 10. Davis squirts through the middle. Flag comes in. Terrell's longest carry of the night, 9 yards.
We'll have holding here.
So no ground game at all for the Broncos tonight, and that's kind of front page news.
There's no ground for either team. And
Holding, offense, number 66. 10 yards, remains, 2nd down.
And this Dolphin defense makes you make decisions quickly, and they force you into situations with their penetration and their speed, and whether it be the running back or whether it be the quarterback or the receivers down the field, you have to be on target and you have to make them right. And for most of the game tonight, the Denver Broncos have been off in their decision making.
Well, this is a well-schooled unit. George Hill, their defensive coordinator, 65 years old. A lot of wisdom going into this group.
Second down and 20. And there's another flag, and there's no play. This play was whistled dead before it started.
Prior to the snap, I'll start. Offense, number 77. 5 yards. Second down.
It's Tony Jones, who in his 11th season out of Western Carolina will finally get to the Pro Bowl this year.
Interesting now, you know, the Broncos are getting a little bit of their own medicine here. The noise in this stadium is really heating up, and the defense feeds off of that emotionally, and they just jack themselves up that much more.
Second down and 25. Elway, a ton of time, throws an out for McCaffrey, and that's broken up by Buckley.
Right on him, too. I mean, right there. It is hard to stick with a guy who comes back as far as Ed McCaffrey came back to help out John Elway.
It's amazing to me that neither one of these corners got Pro Bowl recognition. Really, I mean, you watch them. I mean, they're right in there, and there's no zones here. This is actually a zone, and Buckley has a nice understanding of where McCaffrey is and stays right with him.
Well, the three corners from the AFC, Ty Law, Aaron Glenn, and Sean Springs.
How do you not vote those guys?
I know.
And that's the thing.
But man, 15 INTs between Madison and Buckley.
Third down, 25. Elway with about a half hour, and then adjusting but not making the catch is Dwayne Carswell, the tight end, going all the way downfield. And Lorenzo Bromell makes the acquaintance of John Elway as that pass is launched.
Well, you'd think after a half an hour he'd have somebody open.
Well, you know, that time they only rushed 3 guys and they left 8 in the secondary. And really, very few balls have been uncontested by the defense tonight. You can see right here, John Elway takes a pop. And I mean, again, Terrell Buckley right there where the football is. And you can't say enough good things about these guys back in the secondary of the Dolphins.
O.J. McDuffie goes back to receive this Tom Ruin wobbly kick. And McDuffie fields it on the run at the 19 and brings it back out to the 28-yard line. Tackled there by Tito Paul. We have 12:41 left in regulation. Miami 21, Denver 13. See for the national championship. That's Monday night, the 4th of January. Our man Keith Jackson wrapping up his illustrious career that night, working alongside Bob Greasy as Miami has it at the 28-yard line, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to the 31. You know, gents, we haven't talked about the fact that the reason these teams haven't played since '85, Dan touched on it earlier, was scheduling quirk. A lot of people think the league makes out a schedule, and people this week, a number of people said to me, how can the league not have paired these two guys when it has nothing to do with that? But our man, our director of information, Steve Hurt, went into the archives, put his green eye shade on, went back to his old UNIVAC computer, and figured out the odds against it happening, that they weren't paired up over 12 years. 458 to 1 were the odds mathematically that would happen.
See, I would have thought it would have been somewhere in the 470s.
I thought so too. Marino on 2nd and 7 throws incomplete.
I don't have enough time in my life to figure things out like that.
Well, when you think, it is amazing, because if a team wins a division title, for instance, if you win the AFC West, the next year you play the champions of the other 2 divisions. Now, the Dolphins and the Broncos have each won a lot of titles, but never in the same season.
They would have had to have been up at the same time or down at the same time.
Right.
Their biorhythms were completely opposite.
That's what it amounts to. But tonight we have this harmonic convergence. Zach Thomas getting stretched out there, and it's 3rd down and 7 at the 30-yard line.
Not quite as harmonic as it could have been.
Yes. 7 days ago, 8 days ago. Marino. And that's caught. 1st down and rolling to the 50-yard line, and picking up that 1st down is a run to Gadsden. And Dan Marino, another 300-yard night. It's the 59th time in his career, and the difference is with Dan, he wins most of his 300-yard games.
Well, you know, for the longest time, that's how they won their games. They threw the football, and for most of us who had some 300-yard games, we usually throw them from behind.
The reason that most teams wind up on the short end. 1st and 10 at the 50-yard line. Miami up by 8. Abdul-Jabbar. No gain.
Talking about Dan Marino and how much he's thrown the football, it's one of the things I really admired about Don Shula and his coaching style. No coach in the league was more committed to the running game than Don Shula. With Zonka, Kick, and Mercury Morris, he just pounded the football. A big day for Bob Greasy was 12 or 13 throws. But he realized what he had when he drafted Dan Marino at the tail end of the '83 draft. You know, and he changed his entire system to take advantage of this.
Thomas alert. Lamar Thomas in the game with 3 touchdowns. Bottom of the screen. On 2nd and 10. Marino escaping, throwing for Jaquette, and incomplete. Nate covered by Ray Crockett on the play.
You know, I don't really care how good you are, but when you have guys draped around you and you have pressure coming in up the middle in the form of Glenn Cordrez, you know, those are the types of things that force inaccuracy. And you can see the pressure right here coming right up the middle. You have a little play fake, so you turn your head, and there goes Cordrez right past him, but he's got a hold of him. It's very disconcerting for a quarterback.
A pretty effective job by Jabbar of getting something on Cordrez, rerouting him enough that all he got was a hand on Marino. But you're right, it was enough to disrupt the pass. But you got to come after the guy.
Can't let him sit back there.
3rd and 10. Marino, and nobody home. Nobody even close to that one. Jaquette, I guess, the closest to that pass, but he was 10 yards away.
You know, interesting, in this particular series, there are a couple passes that went awry on him, and I think there was a little miscommunication between he and one of his young receivers. This time it looks like he's trying to get it to O.J. McDuffie, and I think that he was a little bit off base with him.
Tonight's aerial shots provided by the Bud 1 airship, hovering high above Pro Player Stadium here in Miami. Wilmsmeyer to punt. And pooches it to the 12-yard line, where it's fair caught by Coghill. Darian Gordon getting a rest, and Coghill there to return it. 10:09 left in regulation. Denver has the ball back. Champ Cowboys, and we go to Jacksonville next Monday night. Our year wraps up with the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Jacksonville Jaguars on Monday Night Football. Denver 1st and 10 from the 12. Elway has missed 6 in a row and make that 7, but there's a flag down.
Holding. You know it's going to be holding, and Jason Taylor is in the midst of it again.
This was a full-blown tackle here.
You know, Miami has not had a single penalty assessed against them tonight. If this one's accepted, this will be the 8th on Denver.
Holding. Offense number 77 is declined. 2nd down.
'77 is Tony Jones at the top of your screen. Jason Taylor takes it inside, and Jones seemed completely unprepared for it and just hooked him and dragged him down.
Elway 11 out of 29. He is 0 for his last 7. And now he's 0 for 8 with a pickoff.
And there
Sam
is number
Madison
8 for Madison.
Inside the 10. 1st and goal at the 6.
0 for 8 becomes Sam's 8. You run out of superlatives for this Miami Dolphins defense.
You know, it's about pressure, it's about man coverage, and Madison this time shows great ball skills, the ability to turn around and make a play on an underthrown ball. John tries to underthrow it to give Smith the chance to make a play, but it's about pressure. It's about guys getting downfield and sticking with their receivers. And look at the ball skills that Madison has to be able to turn around and make a play on it. You see this time and again every week. You look at DBs and you say, who has got the ball skills to go after that football? And certainly Madison and Buckley have shown that they have those skills tonight. Boy, what a play that is.
28 Dolphin interceptions this season, 8 for Sam. The 28 tops in the league
By far.
First and goal from the 6-yard line. Out of the eye, a little toss to Abdul-Jabbar, and he gets taken down for a loss at the 9-yard line. Keith Traylor with the tackle.
Just to give you an indication of those 28 interceptions as we look at Sam Madison in action again. And Boomer's right on about the ball handling skills. Just keep in mind, Buckley and Madison have 16 interceptions between the two of them. The Denver Broncos as a team only have 17. And that rating for John Elway, 37.4 coming into the game, 95.6 for the season. That's his career high. A miserable night for John, courtesy of the Dolphins.
Second and goal, play clock down to 1. Abdul-Jabbar to the 8-yard line. He's going to set up a 3rd down and goal.
You know, the interesting thing is that I'm watching the body language of Dan Marino, and he is really one of the more demonstrative players in the game today, and you could see that he's frustrated by those first 2 calls. You know, he wants to throw the ball. When they got down there the last time, first down, they throw it to Lamar Thomas for a touchdown, and they're unable to get anything done on the ground. So now you stick your player, it's 3rd and 8, and you stick him in a situation where you know he has to throw.
Dan Marino's a quarterback that Bobby Lane would love. An in-your-face, chew you out if you do something wrong, pat you on the back if you do something well.
And watch the outside guys. They're locked up again one-on-one.
On 3rd and goal, it is caught, and Gadsden takes the defender into the end zone for the touchdown. He dragged Torrey James over the goal line.
Gadsden lined up outside to his left, and they've been throwing those little fade patterns. This time, it's a little slant off the fade move, and he gets right underneath James, and the ball is delivered perfectly down low. And you can see Gadsden get in front of James, and now it's all up to Gadsden and his bad toes to get in the end zone.
Well, he's got big toes. He's 6'2", 220 pounds. Keep in mind, this guy played in the Arena League. Tonight is his, 41st ball game of the year.
Yep. Played with the Forest Dragons, and the Dragon may have just slain the Giant.
I don't care if some of that football was indoors, outdoors, on roller
football.
rinks. That's a lot of football.
28-13.
Excuse me, I'm looking for Victoria Station.
What is it about people who work at gates? Would it hurt to talk? At United Airlines, the people who work at our gates are making it their responsibility to answer questions, solve problems, and just lighten up a little. We know it breaks with tradition, but we're trying to reinvent an airline here.
Another Nokia discovery. Dead batteries are inconvenient. That's why Nokia makes wireless phones with more than 4 hours of talk time and 200 hours of standby time. Inspired technology with a human touch. Nokia. Connecting people.
When Olga Maslova wants to phone her husband, she gives new meaning to the words long-distance call. He works in a space station.
Before you call or you fax or you internet, you need this, and this.
It's a job for Siemens. We're experts in voice, data, video, all kinds of communications, anywhere on Earth. So why not above the Earth as well?
So for this.
We're Siemens.
We can do that.
It's home run king Mark McGwire.
It was just one of those things that it was a perfect year.
One of Barbara Walters' 10 most fascinating people, ABC Tuesday, 10/9 Central.
Profiles of Dan Marino and former Bronco Craig Morton on NFL.com.
And in Miami, the kickoff here fielded by Vaughn Hebron. And Vaughn with a big run back out in front, and he's going to put Denver right back into the game. The Broncos haven't had a kickoff return for a touchdown since 1972, and Vaughn Hebron takes it back 95 yards. The Denver Broncos have gone 408 games without a kickoff return for a touchdown.
And Rick Dennison, happy.
Are you kidding me? Oh, boy.
And the Broncos were ready to put Bubby Brister back into the game here, and Elway was going to get the rest of the night off.
Now you have to wonder if that's going to change.
No, Bubby's in there now. They're going to go for 2 right here.
I guess Mike Shanahan going to stick with it. Outstanding blocking, never touched by a Miami defender. And Vaughn Hebron running away from the field.
Amazing thing about an NFL game, boy, I'll tell you, just on one play can change the momentum and dictate a new way.
Well, this isn't a guaranteed call either. I don't know why they're going for 2.
If you kick it, you're within a touchdown.
If you miss it, you're 9 points down. But if you kick it, you can score by getting into the end zone with 1 and a 2-point, but they get in.
But I don't know why, and I think McCaffrey's hurt.
McCaffrey made the catch.
Oh, okay, he's all right. Boy, he twisted around the wrong way.
But whatever the card was they were going off of is wrong in that particular case.
Yeah, you make it 28-20 if
Absolutely.
you just kick it.
Because if you miss it, you need 2 scores. If you kick it, you only need 1 score. And the 2-point conversion, but you're going to have to get a 2-point conversion later anyway.
You know, and the tough thing is putting in a backup quarterback, and his first play is a 2-point play.
Now the good news is, I guess if they wanted to go for a touchdown and a 2-pointer now, they could win it. But that doesn't make any sense either.
No.
Whatever card they looked at was wrong if they looked at a card.
They looked at a joker.
But if anybody thought for one moment that the Denver Broncos were going to give up, obviously they've quieted that crowd. This is a team that obviously is very proud about what they've accomplished last year and up to this point this year, and they're not going to go down without a fight here.
Well, how about that for history? The Dolphins with that undefeated team in '72, and that's the last time. I mean, think back to the Dolphin season of '72 and how long ago that seems, and that's the last time the Broncos had a touchdown off a kickoff return. It was done by Randy Montgomery in 1972. They had returned more than 1,350 kicks in the interim.
Dan, you're right. It was right up the middle. It was terrific blocking, and it was good setup. And Vaughn Hebron did a nice imitation of a little bit of like Terrell Davis back there. Just took 1 step to the right, and then boom, right up the middle.
1,362 returns is the official number.
Oh, he's like, what more do I have to do now?
Well, it's so frustrating to be on the other side of it. You work to accomplish something, and in the span of about 11 seconds, there goes 7 points of it right out the window, or in this case, 8.
Now think about that. In the Baltimore game last week against Minnesota, they had 3 kickoffs returned for touchdowns in the first quarter alone, and this is Avery, who was trying to duplicate the feat but gets taken down up at the 37-yard line.
You know, here you are, Dan Marino. You just throw another touchdown pass. You go to the side. You get a little Gatorade. You sit down. Coach is telling you, great job. And before you know it, you got to go back out on the field because your team just gave up a long kickoff return. I can't tell you how frustrating that is for a player, especially one who's just been battling all night long.
I'll tell you what's frustrating. I remember one time, if memory serves me correctly, back in the 70s, we ran a kickoff back for a touchdown, and then we kicked off, and the Redskins ran a kickoff back for a touchdown. Back to back.
Think about demoralizing.
First down for the Dolphins up at the 37-yard line with 7:45, trying to take some time off the clock now, but that running game has gone nowhere. Abdul-Jabbar gets taken down after a minimal gain. Abdul-Jabbar tonight has carried the ball a total of 13 times. As you look at Marino's numbers, make it 12 times for 4 yards, and that's why the Dolphins are winning when you look at Marino's numbers, because they certainly negated everything that's happened on the ground.
This is where you would love to have a running game to take some of the pressure off of you in your passing game.
Now, a minute ago, you were wanting him to throw on everything.
No, I just said this is where you wish.
2nd and 9, and it's caught by Lamar Thomas with his 3 touchdowns tonight to the 48-yard line, and a first down, the Denver 48.
I'll say the secondary of the Broncos are having a heck of a time covering these guys, and then when they do catch the ball, they're having a heck of a time trying to tackle them.
Well, they're blitzing, they're stunning, they're trying a lot of different avenues to get to Dan Marino. But again, they're finding out, and maybe it's because they haven't played him since '85. This guy gets rid of the football in a hurry.
Sure. And, you know, the thing we're talking about Mike Shanahan yesterday, he was telling us how, you know, hey, this game, we're playing it to win it.
Darian Gordon, meanwhile, out of the game at one corner for Denver with a bruised shoulder. Flag comes in. This is Abdul-Jabbar. There is Gordon, the cornerback and also their punt returner. Hands to the face, and that's against Denver. So still no penalties against Miami tonight.
For a moment there, I thought Phil was so upset with himself he was inflicting some.
Illegal hands to the face. Defense number 25. 5 yards from the end of the run with an automatic first down.
Darius Johnson. Mike Shanahan will take his team home after the game. They wrap it up against Seattle at Mile High next week. We'll see the penalty here.
They actually called that on Darius Johnson.
Well, touchy-feely.
It looked like to me it was the other way around, didn't it?
No, yeah. First down. Broncos home next week and then off. Remember the wild card week. They have the bye, and their next meaningful game is the weekend of the 9th. No team in any game this season in the NFL has gone through the entire game without a penalty. And this is Abdul-Jabbar. Tackled by Steve Atwater. The other thing that's going on tonight is that Denver has a streak, a long streak of games with sacks, 50 in a row, in fact, and they do not have a sack tonight. And, well, it's Dan Marino. What else is new?
It'd be very difficult to get to him, especially with the way he's throwing the football tonight. Now, last week, they gave up 5 sacks to the Jets, but they did drop back 62 times, so that probably had something to do with it.
And going into that game last week, they only had 16 sacks on the year, so it's nothing new. Dan Marino and his offensive line, league leaders every year of his career.
2nd and 11. Hello, as Torrey James makes the acquaintance of O.J. McDuffie as he holds the pass in.
And when I say league leaders, they're not #1 every year, but they are always in the top 5. And it is just that Dan Marino knows where he's going with the football, and he just delivers the ball quicker than anybody in my mind that has ever played the game of football.
And, you know, he's not worried about his completion percentage. Certainly he wants it to be high, but you know, he'd rather throw the ball away than take a sack. He's an unselfish player in that sense.
He'd rather complete the year than the pass.
Right, but there are players in this league that will take the sack and are afraid to throw the football away.
3rd down and 9. Stunting up front, and that's incomplete. Good defense by Ray Crockett on the pass intended for McDuffie.
And for those of you that heard Boomer make that comment and wondered if he'd lost his mind, he's right on, and the reason is a sack doesn't count against the quarterback's rating.
That's exactly
right. But throwing the football away is an incomplete pass, and that does.
And it does. And you know, it takes a little bit of confidence in yourself and in your ability to not worry about what your completion percentage is. But most coaches will tell you that they'd rather have the quarterback throw it away than complete 62 or 63% of his passes.
Here's Wilmsmeyer kicking. And it is caught, but is it in the end zone or not? Well, it's tossed back by Todd Doxson, who's actually one of the backup quarterbacks and special teams guy, but he was in the end zone. Now the question is, who's coming in to play quarterback for the Denver Broncos? And it's Elway.
Now, Todd Doxson's a quarterback. He's got to be smarter than that.
Now Bubby comes in to do the 2-point conversion.
Look, he's mad. He wants to play. Look,
but Mike Shanahan says we're going to try to win this game. This is what he said going in. We are playing to win, and obviously a man of his word.
And this is John Elway time right here. 4.5 minutes, a little bit less than 4.5 minutes to go in the 4th quarter. Down by 7.
John Elway, no stranger, of course, to game-winning drives in the fourth quarter and overtime, and that's
number 2, right? Number 2 all
Yep,
time.
in fact, we have Marino and Elway 1-2 in just about every category. And they're 1-2 in comebacks as well. Monday Night Football is being brought to you by Charles Schwab, providing people, technology, and support to help you gain financial control. You deserve a higher level of service. That's why United Airlines is rising. AT&T, it's all within your reach. And Miller Lite, an official sponsor of the NFL and the Super Bowl. Elway 0 for his last 9. And finally that streak ends, but not with a first down. Sharp makes the catch, setting up 3rd and 2.
It always seemed to me, watching John Elway over the years, that, the first part of the game really, he wasn't really into it. But then when it got into the fourth quarter and they went into their no-huddle offense, their 2-minute drill where he could call the plays, he really got into the game, got into the rhythm and got into the flow. And not only would he complete a lot of passes, he would take off and run on them.
3rd and 2 from the 28. Crowd in full throat. First down, caught by Rod Smith. Forced out by Marion at the 37. Officially, Elway has led 40 drives in his career, game-winning drives in the fourth quarter or overtime, second among active players. And of course, the guy who's number 1 with 45 is on the other bench. And that's a drive that puts a team in the lead to stay in the regular season. You see those numbers all over the joint, but those are the official numbers. Marino 45, Elway 40. 1st and 10 from the 37-yard line. And that is not caught by Smith, who adjusted on the back pedal and couldn't haul it in.
That was almost the exact same play that they were picked off by Madison on. This time Smith was running up the field straight. And again, John tries to underthrow the football, and Smith really should have made this play. This is a play that he normally makes, and Patrick Surtain was right there, but it's a play that Rod Smith normally, you could see he was upset with himself by not making it.
Second and 10. Elway, that's dropped by Willie Green. Buckley with the coverage. 3rd and 10 now.
He's right there again. It looked like to me he got his hand in there a little bit, but you can't say enough good things again about this secondary. They're right there, right where the ball is being thrown. They're right on the money, and boy, are they aggressive. Let's take a look here. This time John throws the slant inside. Green probably should have had that one as well.
Crowd as raucous as it's been all night. On 3rd and 10, that is a jump ball in effect, and Jerry Wilson comes up with it. He and Shannon Sharp each had possession.
Well, if it ends up simultaneous possession, it's awarded to the offense. But before it got to that point, Jerry Wilson ripped it away from Shannon Sharp. Unbelievable. John Elway is 13 of 36 with 2 interceptions. What a job by Wilson. First of all, he's got it, Sharp's got it, and Jerry stays with it. Wilson has more of it there. Sharp ends up with more of it there, I think, and then Wilson gets it back. Boy, that's really big-time stuff.
And this is Avery. And for Jerry Wilson, who is in his 4th season, that's his first career interception.
Now the Broncos will start to call timeout here to save some time, so it's a good move by Mike Shanahan to do this.
It's a great move. On the other side of that, you've got to stop him. Otherwise, you've wasted your timeouts. And then the opposition can run the clock out. Here's a reminder tomorrow, if the holidays have you a little stressed, here's The Cure. Laugh the night away with the new family comedy America loves, The Hughleys. Tomorrow at 8:30.
Boy, it's been a while since John Elway has had a passing night like tonight. Now, he hasn't had tons of help. He's had some dropped balls by some of his receivers. But still, the coverage by these members of the Miami Dolphins defense. Look at that, 13 of 36. A 26.5 rating and down there around a 33% completion average. That's stunning.
They will look at this film tomorrow and they will see Miami green all over their receivers downfield. And when he did have guys open, he had pressure.
Well, let's face it, Boomer, every team that's going to face Denver in the playoffs is going to study this film over and over and over.
Second down and 9. Stanley Pritchard, the fullback, has come out holding his wrist, and so Marino goes to the air to move the chains, and Thomas does the smart thing by staying in bounds to keep the clock going, and now Denver is forced not to use a timeout here because you have a first down.
What a terrific call by Kippy Brown. This time he fakes the ball, has Dan Marino fake the ball to Avery in the line to the left, and he actually rolls him out. Something that you don't see Dan Marino do very often is throw on the run like this, and he's very capable of doing it. And a real nice play by Thomas that time, staying in bound and catching the football.
Well, they thought about it for a minute, and then Denver decided they might as well take the timeout here. Look, it's the rock and hard place cliche right now with a first down and only one timeout in the 2-minute warning. Marino tonight 355 yards, Elway 151, and Davis, I mean, that's the other story tonight. Terrell Davis, 16 carries, 29 yards.
You know what? They're not mile high, though. That's the thing. If it were a mile high and it was something like these kind of numbers, I would definitely be alarmed. But on the road, when you have nothing to play for against a team that is as desperate as Miami is, I don't really know how significant that is.
No, it's certainly. I don't think anyone in the Denver organization is going to panic.
He won't be benched next week.
They'll be sorry they lost. He'll be happy if he leaves here healthy.
Right.
And that's the key. But as Shanahan was saying last night, and we talked about it tonight, he wants his team to be playing well at the end of the year, and that is not the case right now. First and 10 from the 29. Avery, and he picks up 5, and Denver will take its final timeout with 2:41.
So how does this make the Minnesota Vikings look right now? I mean, obviously last night they looked awesome last night again, and well, I'll tell you, Denver had been going on here now undefeated, and nobody's really talking about the Vikings. We were, and we saw them a few times. They were exciting, but really, right now at 14-1. And congratulations must go out to the teams like the Atlanta Falcons and Dan Reeves, and they won a big game and clinched their division, and also the Jets, Jets, finally.
And our
1969.
Our thoughts with Dan Reeves as well. As many of you know, Dan had to be readmitted to the hospital yesterday. He will not be involved in any game planning for the Miami game. We want to get him fit and ready to patrol the sidelines second weekend of January.
Yeah, that's where the bye week really comes into play for the Falcons, buying Dan Reeves an extra week of recuperation.
You know, and another huge win yesterday, New England over San Francisco with backup Scott Zolak, who's from.
How do you figure that?
Who's from?
I don't care where he's from.
Come on. Well, you know he's not from Michigan. He's from.
Hey, where's Jake Plummer from? Richest guy in Arizona, 2nd and 5. And Avery gets stopped here, and this will take us to the 2-minute warning because Denver is out of timeout.
Is he from Hofstra? Is that where he's from? Have you been touting Hofstra?
Well, no, Scott Zolak's from Maryland, so come on.
Oh, how convenient!
Come on,
now now it's Maryland.
No, come on.
Come on, what?
Give him what he deserves.
It was a big win.
Yes, it was. Thank you very much.
It was a big win.
Well, the 49ers are now forced into a situation where they have to defeat St. Louis at home or have Green Bay lose against Chicago to make sure that playoff game, the Green Bay-San Francisco game, is out west.
Have you ever noticed how we have to congratulate Zolak? See, in Boomer's mind, quarterbacks win games all by themselves.
It's a one-man show. 2-minute warning. With 2 minutes to go, it's third down now, 3rd and 4. A reminder to stay tuned to ABC after the game for the late local news or other programming, or if you'd like to see a post-game show, go over to ESPN. 3rd down and 4. If they don't pick it up, Jimmy Johnson has an interesting choice coming up here. with a 7-point lead. They need 4. Don't come close. Now they have the ball at the 24.5. Do you go with Mate to kick a 41 or 42-yard field goal? If he misses, Denver's going to get the ball at the 32 with about 1 minute and 15 seconds remaining.
Well, the one thing you do know is he'll let the clock run all the way down, and they'll probably take a timeout with about, what do you say, about 1 minute and 10 seconds?
Well, I don't think you have a choice. Of course you kick the field goal. Well, your options aren't very attractive. They lost a couple yards on that last run. You got 4th and almost 6 yards.
I know this might sound a little goofy, but what about a pooch? Yeah. Because, I mean, if you have the field goal blocked or you miss it, I mean, Elway has done it a million times.
You ought to be able to execute a field goal.
You would think they're going to send Mata in.
Definitely at this length, absolutely.
Yeah, you ought to be able. You ought to be able to execute it.
He missed the 28-yarder earlier.
Well, that's because we were singing. We were.
Well, he better make this one.
We'll give him peace and quiet.
.75 seconds left. If Denver gets they'll get the ball back, but if they're in a position to win the game as Wayne Huizenga goes down onto the field, and his opposite number, the owner of the Broncos, Pat Bowlen, also on the sideline. Elway will have no timeouts, but John rarely needs them. Except he's going to have to play a lot better than he's played to this point in the game. This is a 43-yard attempt by Olindo Mate. And Olindo bangs it through. And that does everything but make it official. Unless, of course, Vaughn Hebron runs another kickback for a touchdown. (31-21). Officially, it's 42.
Well, you don't think it means something? It sure does. It doesn't matter how much money you make or not, but the fact of the matter is you want to win these ball games. And certainly the Miami Dolphins came in here a little downtrodden after their loss last week to the New York Jets, who, by the way, really have played very well the last part of the season here. And Bill Parcells and those guys have done a great job in New York.
Yes, we've noticed. You've only mentioned the Jets about 10 times
you know what?
in the second half. We know you live on Long Island, Boomer. We got the point.
It doesn't matter. You know, I played there. Almost got killed there.
The point is, what Miami knew was that they had Denver and Atlanta the last 2 weeks of the season. And if they lost both those games and Tennessee were to win this coming Saturday, they're out.
But Miami's work isn't done, but Tennessee's work will be done as far as the playoffs are concerned if Miami holds on to this lead. Miami would be in. Oilers are out. This is Vaughn Hebron. Can he do it again? This time he's out of bounds at the 23. So tonight's game from Miami, produced as always by the impeccable one, our producer Ken Wolf,
the best, and
directed by Craig Janoff, the best.
Woof, 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 woof.
Ben Harvey, our associate producer, he is the best. Jaime Bravo, our associate director. Ed McKenna, our production manager, and the gang, Claude Phipps, Al Schmitz, Chris Pfeiffer, and Bill Boland, the guys who never sleep.
America's Most Wanted.
And our director of information, Steve Hurt. And our last guys as well, from the 23-yard line, Brewster is in the game. Bubby throws, that's caught. And staying inbounds, Derek Lavelle. Up at the 35, so Brewster down by 10. I want to thank Lynn Vandenberg, who patrols our booth. Our statistician, George Hill, no relation to the Dolphins defensive coordinator.
No, Lynn does a good job, and she's got to feed you guys. You guys are constantly eating them.
Well, you know, we're growing babies here. That's dropped by Ed McCaffrey, and our spotter is Malibu Kelly Hayes, who, as you know, Boomer, lives in Aspen, and wants you to
Aspen Kelly Hayes.
He wants you to know that there's plenty of snow up there.
Who just went to Napa this week, I hear, right?
What are all these crumbs over here in front of you?
Those are not crumbs. Those are shells from Joe Stonecraft.
Oh,
Oh, it's the best part of this job. You get all kinds of free stuff.
Oh,
just
wonderful.
knock Lynn over, why don't you, Dan?
Meanwhile, John Elway has not had a rating that low in a game since 1986. In the second half, Elway 6 out of 20 as Brister gets sacked by Lorenzo Bromell. And so Miami was in the playoffs. Tennessee will be out. If Miami wins next week at Atlanta, and the Falcons have nothing at stake in that game, they're locked into the number 2 seed in the NFC West as the crowd departs here, then Miami would host a playoff game against either New England or Buffalo. Brister launches one.
Man, did he throw that
Dade
one.
County.
Oh, wow.
Willie Green.
I didn't know he could throw the ball that far.
That's a good 65 yards in the air.
That was pretty impressive.
Not bad for, what is Bubby, 36 years old?
Bubby is 36 years old.
Let's talk about those 36, 37-year-olds, huh? They're all in the Pro Bowl.
Well, let's talk about the Jets some more.
Let's talk about the Cardinals.
Hey, they got a shot.
They sure do.
Yep. He's just over the 20s. He threw from about the 24-yard line.
That ball landed about, what, the 12?
That was punt, pass, and kick territory right there.
64 yards.
Hey, you know what those two teams have in common, don't you? The Cardinals and the Jets.
What?
I don't play for them anymore.
Here's Green, and Green seeking to stop the clock. And he does, and there's time for one more play. But the Miami Dolphins will have cemented a spot in the playoffs. Clearly a most bittersweet night for a very pained Dolphin head coach, Jimmy Johnson, losing his mother last night and somehow able to work his way through the game. And it's been a tough one for him, and they've overcome a lot tonight. I mean, they had the 3 atrocious officiating calls that all went against them.
Give Jimmy Johnson credit. He had his guys ready to go tonight. They were emotional, and they were flying all around, especially on defense. And what can you say about Dan Marino, who had just really a terrific night, and Lamar Thomas, who really came up with some huge plays and gave some Christmas presents to his family in the end zone.
Dan Marino and the Miami Dolphins at the postseason play as year 3 of the Johnson reign winds down, and the Broncos, who went 13-0, are now 13-2 with Seattle coming up and an off week. And certainly Mike Shanahan hoping, as we mentioned at the very outset, that history doesn't repeat in the form of 1996 when they didn't play a